So, my name is Emily, Émilie André Jabouin, and I'm the founder of Yoga.Unity.
Where do I belong? With that message shall not go. Another blinded sheep is not what the mother needs. Weeping as she sees all the destruction and despair. I will not be part of this unconscious warfare. I will not be part of this unconscious warfare. Where do I start? Crossing borders, it's all make believe. Keep waking up and then falling asleep. Where do I start? A church full of whores and LA ghetto bird is out for a bust. I'm searching for real. I'm searching for real.
Yoga.Unity is a community grassroots initiative meant to offer accessible yoga classes to women of color. Black, Indigenous, queer, trans women of color, women who are part of world majority women, so racialized women, that also includes immigrant and refugee women. I'm talking about women who've experienced racism, sexism, ageism, transphobia, ableism, like various experiences that have made us fall outside of the dominant racial cultural group in Canada. And these experiences mean that we're not able to access certain spaces or certain services, such as yoga studios. We don't have as much access to yoga, we don't have as much access to even mental health services. So on a wider scale, my objective with this initiative is to really give women a space where they can build trust, they can heal, they can get support, they can create community, they can empower themselves, and where we can also heal. It's a space where I think that we're able to talk. We're able to acknowledge each other's experiences and validate them. There are so few services that speak to our needs. And there isn't a wider understanding of the real challenges of race and racism in Canada and colonialism in Canada. I consider that racism is a big factor in mental health, which is not necessarily something that all services or many services will recognize. I do know that services that work with immigrant and refugee populations do recognize that migration and that coming into a country like Canada where people may experience racism will have an impact on the person's mental health in the long run. But I find that, again, the services or the professional, the experts, whomever who works with people are aware that in specific contexts. So if you're an immigrant, if you're a refugee person who's come from a war-torn country or who may have experienced torture or some form of trauma, but there's a very limited understanding of the fact that as a person of color who is Canadian, who's always lived here, who's never migrated from anywhere, there aren't services to answer to those needs. Race exists in Canada, racism exists in Canada, but and we kind of superficially talk about race in Canada, but we don't address it. One thing that's really, really important for me and why I think that a women of color space is crucial is that women of color face all types of forms of violence. So we can name them: sexual violence, financial abuse, street harassment. There are various forms of violence that we can name. But the fact that race is so invisible in Canada means that we ignore the fact that we experience that sort of violence at very different levels in Canadian society. The highest rates of murders in Canada in trans communities are women of color. I have found sources that have clearly outlined the fact that Black and Asian women have the highest rates of breast cancer in Canada, and that cancer is linked to stress. And so I add to that, where is the stress coming from? It's coming from racism, it's coming from social stressors, social factors. And when we're sitting in this women's space, we're able to talk about those things, and they're not foreign to us. We're able to hear ourselves in the other women in the room, and that's really, really important. Whereas this is a model where everybody's just sharing, to be able to acknowledge the pain and the hurt that's been going on, and to be able to move past it. Other benefits to Yoga.Unity is also that I noticed that in building community, I have in some way assured that women don't have to stay in isolation. Yoga.Unity is also about bringing people together. It started as a pilot project in May 2015, and it then turned into an actual program in September 2015. So it's been a little bit over a year that this has been going on. Yoga.Unity is also a multi-faith space. And to me that's really important because I've seen women with different beliefs come in and be able to talk. So the point of the safer space is so that women are able to process this, are able to realize that, you know what, they're not crazy. The person across from them is telling a similar story. Safer spaces are necessary for people to empower themselves. Something that I've heard many times come up again and again is the fact that women feel like they can just be. Some women had never tried yoga, did yoga with us for a few months, and then went out into the world and continued doing yoga and continued doing what they were doing. There needs to be acknowledgement that race and racism are very big issues in Canada, and that's something that's constantly being denied, and that's something that I want to put in the forefront. I want community services, I want mental health services, I want other services in Ottawa to know about us, to know what we're doing, and to do everything to connect with us, to do everything to consider us a real resource for their service users. I want us to be able to tap into all communities of color, to specifically build stronger relationships with First Nations women, with Métis women, Indigenous women on a whole. Yoga.Unity is actually meant to be a space where women transition through, or women use to empower themselves. And so all I can say is that Yoga.Unity will continue to grow.
I teach at Yoga.Unity because to me it's a place of like gathering, of building community, and of, for me, feeling accepted in that space. And to me, it's a place where we're inviting women of color. We're like, yeah, you are invited to this space. We want you to come here, and you are going to be welcomed, and you're going to be accepted as you are, wherever you're coming from. Yoga.Unity, to me, just means a place to gather and a place to share, and using the practice of yoga to connect with one another, but connect with our bodies, our mind, and our spirit, and take some time for ourselves, especially because a lot of us are doing activist work. A lot of us are working 2 to 3 jobs. A lot of us have families. So for me, Yoga.Unity is like, we want you to take some time for yourself and take some time to recharge so you can go back into the world. That we are facing many obstacles all the time, but giving ourselves that time to recharge and not feeling alone. So for me, like, one of my favorite things for Yoga.Unity is at the end when we share, when we're in a circle and we share. It's a place of support.
I want to be sharing the practice with people like my mom, people that are like hustling like 3 jobs and don't have time, but I'm like, okay, we're going to do just 3 postures that's going to help. I teach because, one, it challenges me. To share the practice is a beautiful gift, and that I can do. And now that I'm doing it more with Yoga.Unity, I'm like, this is in alignment with what I want to be doing. These are the women that I want to be working with. These are the people that we are rising up together and like finding empowerment, and they help me grow too. And I feel reflected, and I feel respected in the spaces, and I feel welcome in the spaces as a teacher.
But it like really the experience of it is that, like one of our participants often says, you just are. You know, you're just you doing yoga or taking care of yourself. And it's just real.
In the space Yoga.Unity, I get to like really explore my gifts and what I can offer, and being like they'll be received, and like people are so nice, and I'm reflected here. But I work in many different spaces, and some spaces that I work in, I'm the only person of color, and I'm teaching the class, and I feel many things. I feel some people are like, who are you? What are your credentials? And I or people question me, or people, which is fine, question away, but it's very, if I look different, maybe they wouldn't, you know. And I experience racism all the time. I go to Yoga.Unity, like, and I'm like, yeah, I get filled spiritually. I get filled, like, I'm like, I have friends. This is great. So to me, it's a blessing to be in that space, because it's so much. For me, it's just like, you're welcome. You are welcome in this space. I see you in the space. And another thing of empowerment is like, I'm seeing the people that are coming, the women that are coming, and I'm like, these are amazing beings that are doing so much in our community, and we come together. I'm just like, wow. And so we're giving them a space to take time for themselves, but it's also networking in different ways. And I'm like, oh, you do this? I want to work with you because I want to work with another person of color and support you in your path that you're doing.
I think that there needs to always be space for people who feel like they might not always fit into the larger community, or may feel marginalized or disenfranchised in any way. And it's not our job to judge what is marginalized and what is disenfranchised. It's our job to create a space that one day all these people can come together. Do I think that racism exists in Canada? Absolutely. I think racism exists everywhere.
I'm searching for real. I'm searching for real. 'Cause I'm of it, I'm from it, I'm beyond these words. And I'm of it, I'm from it, I'm beyond these worlds. I'm an inside